place that lets you know you're not the only nerdy true believer who's around. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store. Out among the stacks of new releases, browsing with your future new best friends. You're gonna find a book you'll love to pieces. The girl behind the counter recommends dollar books and shelves of graphic novels. Titles old and new, you'll find them all. With action figures, board games, toys, and models to add to your new Comic Wednesday haul. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
Yes, sirree, Bob. Welcome back to the comic book store. This is Source Material Live, where we don't do any editing. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, we are discussing Bill and Ted Save the Universe, which was published back in 2017 by Boom Studios. Joining me tonight to talk about Bill and Ted Save the Universe, published in 2017, brought to you by Boom Studios, is... I just want to keep saying Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, he's back, and better than ever, but he's not staying. Don't get too attached. He's got to give out those ways and means in the OIO. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the actual host of this show when he brings the love. It's Jesse Starcher.
Oh, my goodness. I'm a guest on my own show, and I wouldn't have it any other way right now. Man, you guys are doing Bill and Ted Week, and I said, I've got to be in on something. I picked up the first issue of this, and I was just like, oh, I'll check it out because I'm interested. I'm a fan of time travel. I'm a fan of Bill and Ted.
Are you a fan of Boom Studios?
I am a fan of Boom Studios. And I was like, oh, my goodness, this first issue is actually pretty good. And I got to the second issue. I'm like, I'm enjoying this. I'd actually kind of like to talk about it. So I'm glad to be back here amongst Mark Radulich, the host of Source Material right now. So, yeah, buddy, I'm excited.
All right, and of course, she's been with us most of this week talking about Bill and Ted stuff and New Mutant stuff for that matter. She's pulling double duty from Honeysuckle Rose Creations. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Alexis Hejna. How you doing, madam?
How's it going, comic book dudes?
Station!
You realize quickly that a lot of the lines from Bill and Ted don't actually work unless you have somebody to say them with you in unison. Because that's like 90% of their charm.
Oh, yeah. I was listening to, just because at work I can do this while I'm working, I put on some 80s and 90s commercials. Now, if you listen to some of the 90s commercials, most of what you hear is almost like them... like some young kid aping Bill and Ted. Just next time, if you get a chance, you could hear. I think one of you guys mentioned stoner movies. It almost sounds like excellent, and it's amazing that was the first movie that I have ever seen. Bill and Ted was the first movie that I'd ever seen that type of dialogue in, but it really bled over and carried through quite a few different commercials, at least as far as I'd seen, into the dialect of a lot of young kids, especially me at the time. Bogus, man.
We got to hear from Alexis when, in her relationship to the Bill and Ted franchise, when we talked about Bill and Ted Face the Music. Just real quickly, in case people haven't heard that show, in 50 words or less, Alexis, what is your relationship to this franchise?
When I was little, my parents recorded Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for me off of the TV. I had that VHS tape with me for years. I watched it ad nauseum. Did I hear your Amazon Echo go off in the background again?
You did.
Yep.
All right, mark that off on your bingo card, folks.
You have to change. Can we call you Leroy or something? Because nothing in my house goes off when I yell out Leroy or Jenkins.
Yeah, not happening.
All right, Leroy.
Like I said, maybe you just, I don't know, unplug your Echo.
That seems like it would take effort.
That's a lot of effort.
I hate to say it, half the time it's like, wait, is that actually, is it the Amazon Echo? Am I getting a nasty reverb on my phone, or did Mark's wife forget that he's recording and she's yelling at him about something?
You know, nothing in my house goes off like this when I record with Chris Sheehan. I just want you to know that.
Well, don't I feel special? But yes, like I was saying, I watched this movie so many times when I was a kid. It was my go-to, put it on tape. I didn't actually watch Bogus Journey for the longest time because it came out when I was 7, and the TV commercials featured the scene where the evil robot Bill and Ted pull open their mouths to reveal their robot skeleton faces, and that gave me horrible nightmares.
Yeah. I didn't mention it on the previous podcast, but the one thing about that scene in Hell that used to freak me out, even though I was significantly older than you when it came out, you could hear a woman yelling, "I didn't do anything, but I didn't do anything." And that, for whatever reason, really rubbed me the wrong way. Like the whole scene itself is not in any way, shape, or form scary, but the hearing the woman when "I didn't do anything" freaked me out.
Yeah, Bogus Journey, you look back at it when you're older and you appreciate the fact that they were able to go in such a completely different way for the sequel. They didn't just rehash it, they didn't recycle the plot or anything. But at the same time, it was so ridiculously dark. And I know that there is an audience for that, but I think for a lot of people who cemented their love of Bill and Ted with Excellent Adventure or with the animated Saturday morning cartoon series, that movie just doesn't sit well. You know, it's like you can appreciate it as its own entity, but you don't like thinking about it as part of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse, you made a special effort to appear on this show because you love the Bill and Ted franchise so much. So tell me about it. How did you come to this franchise, and why do you like it so much?
I'm sure that at some point I must have been sitting at the house on a Friday night and got the chance to go to the video store, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was sitting there on the rack. Picked it up and watched it, and as anybody knows who's listened to this podcast and other podcasts, I'm a fan of time travel, especially when it's used decently. But I'll watch just about anything that involves that plot device. So watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, it was goofy, it was funny, and I had a great time watching it. I watched Bogus Journey shortly after that, probably same situation, where I was sitting there on a Friday night and got the VHS tape and watched it. I didn't watch that one as much as I did watch Excellent Adventure throughout the years. I think I've watched Bogus Journey like maybe 3 times. And then I would say a couple years ago, a friend of mine had the movies. I was able to borrow those and show them to my kids. And Caleb really likes these movies. And when I told him about 3 coming out, man, was he excited. We watched 3, Face the Music. And, you know, I can echo a lot of your sentiments, both of you. I know you guys, Winfrey was on there talking about how I don't think he had much of a history with the franchise, and Alexis, obviously you did when you guys reviewed the movie. It didn't sit very well with me, the 3rd one, but my son came up to me and he says, "This is my favorite movie ever." So it just runs the gamut. I mean, it is definitely made for kids, and it's absurd and it's funny, and that's why it always kind of holds a special place in my heart, because I enjoy those type of things, and that's what this franchise brings to you.
There was an animated show, wasn't there? Did you ever watch the animated show?
I think I caught a little bit of that on TV. I can't remember what network was it was on. I don't know if it was Fox or I can't remember, but I rarely got the what years was it on? Anybody have any idea?
Hang on, I'm wikiing it.
Okay, because there was only one point in my life for about 3 years. I only had like access to NBC, and that was it. I lived out in Appalachia, so we didn't we didn't get all the channels. Mark, our antenna didn't pick it up.
You had to stand out there on your roof with some rabbit ears.
Yeah, and that's...
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures was 1990 to 1991, and there was also a live-action TV series that only lasted one season.
Wow!
Yeah,
really?
I saw a sample of that on the Red Letter Media review of Face the Music. I can see why it lasted only one season.
It wasn't that good, huh?
Someone brought it up that there was actually a big outcry because the animated series, the first season they did it, they had Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves voicing the animated characters themselves. The second season, they brought in the actors who played the versions of them in the live action series because they wanted to try to tie it in closer.
Okay. All right.
I'm guessing that did not go over well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's so much range you could do with time travel as the central theme of your cartoon. So, but 2 seasons, I guess. I can tell you that it would probably wear you out if you were watching a lot of these episodes, having to listen to Bill and Ted do their same thing over and over and over.
I think they missed their opportunity for an epic crossover in time travel. I think Marty McFly from Back to the Future needed to meet Bill and Ted.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, if it's going to happen anywhere, folks, it's going to happen in the comics.
Maybe it'll happen with Boom Studios.
Boom, baby.
All right, so Bill and Ted Save the Universe, issue number 1. Cover date June 2017. In-store date June 21st, 2017. Our writer is Brian Joines. Our artist is Bakan. Do you know anything about Brian Joines or Bakan?
No, I don't. I've never heard of either of these.
Okay.
Or the colorists. So Boom Studios, obviously, they're not the big two. They usually fly under the radar, so them grabbing anybody that's big time is probably slim to none. But I can tell you that what we got in this was not bad at all.
No, I love the art in this. You know, especially having just read the Demon Bear saga. I'm glad I can read something where the art makes sense.
I still haven't cracked that open, but I knew you guys were talking about Bill Sienkiewicz and what you were going to get. Boy,
it's not bad or anything. It's not my. I like nice, clean lines. I like to be able to know what I'm reading and be able to follow a story. And it was very hard to follow with his very artistic expressionist artwork. But all right, Jesse, I put you to work.
You did,
because I didn't want. I knew I had an opportunity here to get you to do summaries for me, since that's what you used to do when you ran this podcast, instead of me bumblefucking my way through what I can remember. So, go ahead and read the summary for issue number 1, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, feel free to step in if I forget anything major. Bill and Ted are thrown a surprise party by Rufus, their wives, their 2 boys, family members, friends, and many other significant members of history on their 5-year anniversary of passing their history exam, solidifying their destinies in Wild Stallions, becoming the band whose music unites the universe. However, things seems to hit a bump in the road when an alien ship beams Bill, Ted, Rufus, and a newfound alien friend named Hejna aboard. The alien captain, Glurm, explains he is investigating the Wild Stallions as it seems their music is being used to unite races across the galaxy, and there's concern it may be altering the natural evolution of other alien societies. Hejna attempts to fight against their captors in order for the Wild Stallions to escape, but is soon overpowered. Just as it all looks too grim for the band and their friends, 2 suited figures appear and unload on Glurm and his officers. Their rescuers holster their weapons and take their helmets off as Bill and Ted stand shocked to see it is their moms that saved their skins. Back on Earth, Death leaves his date, who just happens to be the embodiment of fate, at the party in order to use Rufus's phone booth to try to find his friends. So, man, issue 1, we get the moms involved here. That's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, this is a pretty packed issue to get things started. It begins with Rufus distracting them with an adventure back in time. We're still doing time travel, and they're being chased by Vlad the Impaler, who they keep calling Vlad the Impala.
Right there, you got. I think that was a great representation of the humor of Bill and Ted. Mm-hmm. These goofballs that don't know how to pronounce names and go around and just, bumble their way through somehow.
Well, that's one of the big things about this series, and you get a lot out of the character Deacon, who is Ted's younger brother, and then, of course, you have the father, and both of them are hardworking, nose to the grindstone, serious individuals, and they are just... And I want to get your reaction to this, Alexis, because this was my major takeaway from this book. Throughout the story, they just kind of throw their hands up and go, it's kind of like the episode of The Simpsons where you have the one guy who, Jesse, I don't know if you remember this or not.
Homer's to me. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, where at the end of it he just goes crazy and he was just like, I'm running with scissors, because it's like he's worked his ass off to get to where he is, and Homer just falls ass backwards into like what appears to be the best life ever. And that's their problem with Ted. It's like, the adages of put your nose to the grindstone, do the work, idle hands with the devil's work and all of that don't apply to Ted, who falls ass backwards into being the universe's savior.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is the most frustrating thing ever. You know what I mean, Alexis?
I have known people like this, people who just do not understand why the universe isn't fair, and those who work day in, day out, have very little to show for it. And then there's some people who just have gone through the world flying by the seat of their pants and have had, they're not bad people. They have
everything works out for them.
Exactly. It's like, this isn't a case of, fate, fortune favors the wicked or anything. It's simply a case of, why am I not being rewarded for my hard work?
Mm-hmm. Or better yet, why is this person being rewarded for not? Ted isn't. The whole thing with Bill and Ted is they're not actively doing anything. Rufus came to them with a time ship, the phone booth, and said you're going to save the universe. But first, we got to get you past this history exam. Go use this to help yourselves. And they're just like, okay, and everything that happens to them is fated, and so much of it is done without them even trying, and it drives Deacon crazy.
Yeah.
We should point out that this obviously came out before Face the Music was a thing, because this basically would not be canon with the third movie at all.
The children are not even the right gender.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that was the big thing. That I was like, okay, well, clearly this is not tying into the movie, or they didn't base anything off the movie from this book. That's the central thing that this franchise is based around, is the fact that somehow these idiots are going to unite the galaxy. And that's like, you're just like, how in the world is that going to happen? Because these guys are just off the charts. They just aren't there. It doesn't seem like. But somehow they're going to get it done. And yeah, I could understand how Deacon, which the bulk of this book, when I say bulk, but a good portion of this book focuses on his resentment and the fact that he wants to get away from the fact his brother is going to, he is already known as one of the biggest rock stars at that time, and he just wants to get out of his shadow. So I guess I'll also throw in here, it was neat to see everybody, including Missy, who is with the villain from the second movie.
Yeah, she's dating Chuck Denomalos.
Yeah, Missy gets around.
Oh, I would have to say I would agree.
What else did you like about this first issue, Alexis?
Well, I hate to say one thing. This is just a minor pick, but I kind of prefer the cover style artwork as opposed to the style that we actually got in the book.
The interior.
Yeah, the artwork is pretty good, but a lot of the human expressions are very squash and stretch. Like we get that first shot of the moms when they reveal or take off their helmets, and you see their faces. I don't know what the deal is, but their eyes just look so bizarre, and then you look at the cover and it's a little more cartoony, and honestly, I think it suits it a bit more, and it's more the style I think that I would have liked to have seen continue throughout the book. Not that the artwork on the interior is bad. It's not. It's very well done. But I think they're trying to go a little bit more realistic. And frankly, with Bill and Ted, you can afford to go cartoony. It's like if you can afford to go cartoony, do us all a favor, go cartoony.
So our cover artist is a guy by the name of Derek Charm. So just keep that name in mind. Maybe we'll see him later on down the line at some point. As for the art, I can tell you that it didn't bother me a whole lot. I was able, as long as I'm able to glean what's going on in the story and not have to try and figure out who's who, which, the good thing is Ted has black hair, Bill has blonde hair, okay, and that makes it easy for me to keep track. So,
Jesse, any other thoughts about this first issue before we move on to the second issue?
Nah, man, I love the introduction of their mothers. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do with the mothers throughout this series, I really, really enjoy, and we'll talk about that as we go on.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I have for the first issue.
All right, so second issue, published. Cover date is July 2017. In-store date July 19th, 2017. And Jesse, what do we got here for a
synopsis? Here we go. All right, so in this issue, Bill, Ted, and the rest of the gang escape Glurm's clutches by hopping onto their mother's ship. We learn how Bill's mom, Brenda, and Ted's mom, Tamerlane, first met in 1986 when both children were in trouble in school. They become friends and then were approached by a man, apparently not Rufus, who took them into the future to show them their son's importance and accomplishments. The man also gave the ladies a tape of Wild Stallion's music and a mission to spread the sound to the rest of the galaxy. The pair leave their husbands and children behind to accomplish that mission. It is here we learn that at this time in Bill and Ted's lives, they are to leave their families and go on a galactic tour for 10 years. The boys are distraught over leaving their families behind, but to convince them, their moms take them to the home of the Grand Cosmic Council to show Bill and Ted the influence they had on other species. However, the Grand Cosmic Council are also the ones that sent Glurm on his mission to investigate the Stallions, and trying to fly low fails when Rufus, of all people, notifies the Council the Stallions are there. Brought before the leader of the Council, a sentient toaster, looks like a toaster, by the name of Ob, the Stallions are thrown into some trials to determine their value to the greater whole. At the end of the issue, the guys appear to have met their match, and they are at the feet of a green, hulking alien monster.
The music critic.
Tomato, tomato.
That was a great reveal. Oh, and Bill's father and Ted's father and younger brother Deacon have been brought aboard Glurm's ship to possibly aid Glurm in finding the Stallions. So that is issue 2.
One of the things I love about Glurm is, like, he's not malevolent in any way. He's just, he has a job to do. And he's like, it's said that your music is going to unite the universe. I just have some questions about that. What is the nature of your music? What does that mean? What does it mean you're going to unite the universe? Like, how is that going to work? The universe is a very complex and large place. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, that's really smart.
He's got a point. I mean,
yeah.
You're obviously influencing a lot of people. Why is that?
And I think there was even like an example of a planet where things worked out and they were unified, but that unification came at the cost of something else. It was like it didn't really work out the way that everyone thought it would. He was like, so maybe unification is not always the best thing. I just need to talk to you about your music, and I have some questions. But the mothers are so intent on making this happen. Like, they are true believers. This is almost religious zealotry regarding their sons, that they're not letting a reasonable person ask reasonable questions. They're like, no, it just has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things I like about this book is how no one's purely evil or purely good in this. There's a lot of shades of gray here, and sometimes some suspect motives.
There's a point later on in the book where I was like, oh, we're going to have a cliche turn right here, and we didn't. So yeah, that really supports your point there, because there isn't, although it does get a little violent towards the end, but either way, I understood like where Glurm was coming from. I understood where, Bill and Ted's moms were coming from. I mean, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, your kid is going to be responsible for uniting the galaxy," that is what I'm going to make sure happens if I can. So I understand where they're coming from, and then I faulted them too for the fact that they left their kids behind. I mean, who could do that? A parent shouldn't be comfortable doing that, And I don't think they were, but I mean, they embraced it.
The way they're written. And we'll get Alexis' opinion on this. The way they're written, it was kind of like they were in either failing or ho-hum marriages, and they saw an opportunity to go gallivanting across space, and they justified it with, well, it's because this is such an important mission. But I think deep down inside, they just didn't want to be there anymore. They found an opportunity to escape, and they took it. And they rested their moral laurels on the idea that, well, we're helping the greater good.
Yeah, I agree. You really do. The mothers are written really well. You really can get this sense of, yeah, we abandoned you. Yeah, we disappeared without a trace. Yeah, we haven't even tried to stay in contact with you. But it was for the greater good, we swear. I'm not gonna say I got my absolute favorite line in this issue. The Bill and Ted sort of hologram themselves back to Earth to let everyone know they're okay, and they start telling their wives like, "Oh, well, we met our moms," and they're like, "You met your mothers?" And Denomalus goes, "Someone willingly admits to birthing you." Such a great line.
I love how, I don't think it comes up later, but I love how Missy's like absolutely just scared that Bill's ex-wife is still alive, because they apparently didn't get along too well. When she hears that they're still alive, she's like, "Oh crap!"
You mean Bill's mom?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it would be Bill's dad's ex-wife. I can't remember.
You find out Bill's dad was cheating on his.
Oh, that's right.
Wife with Missy. She's like, "Yeah, I didn't know he was still married when we started dating." So.
Oh my goodness, man! I'll tell you about my favorite part out of this issue, and it's Ted's dad. He's got two of my favorite parts throughout this 5-issue series, and it's when Ted's dad and Deacon are in the car, and they're just like, let's just forget about the Wild Stallions and go on with our lives. And they're high-fiving each other. They're done with having to worry about Ted and his band. And then all of a sudden this beam comes down and picks up the car. He says, "Dear God, I hate that band."
Right. Because not only are they falling ass backwards into infamy, and being, and becoming famous not just in the world but throughout the universe, but they can't. Like, their band is now glomming onto other people's lives. Like, they can't escape this thing. And, all he wants to do is be a cop and, and live his life. And it's like he can't even do that much. And how frustrating that is.
Yeah, you get in the later issue, Deacon talking about how after the big concert at the end of Bogus Journey, all of a sudden everything in his life essentially revolved around Ted, how all of his friends all of a sudden just wanted to be friends with him because he was Ted's little brother, and he just sort of lost his own sense of identity.
Yeah, Deacon's story is really sad in this. And he's like my favorite character throughout this entire 5-issue limited series.
Well, I mean, I identify with Deacon. I understand where he's coming from for sure. And I like this, I like what we get with his character arc and what happens in the big decision he has, which we'll talk about here in a few. But I like that about him.
And it's clear he's really pissed off about Sheena because he obviously liked her. He obviously thought they had a real connection. And there's no question when she's in her human guise, she is gorgeous. Mm-hmm. She is a skinny, curvaceous redhead, obviously.
But much like everybody else in his life, she was just using him to get to Ted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sad stuff.
Yep.
That's all I have for me for issue 2.
Anything else about issue 2, Alexis?
So far, I think that's it. I would have liked if the trials that the Toaster puts them through were more than just one panel each.
Oh yeah,
because it looks like so much fun, and it clearly looks like the artist had a lot of fun designing and drawing it. I love the expression on Bill's face when he's trying to grab onto the fire bones. He's like, "Oh, come on, Toaster dude!" And it's really fun, and it's good drawing. It's like, you guys could have done a little bit more with it. I would have liked to have seen them go through these challenges just a tiny bit more so it didn't feel so rushed before we get okay, how the hell do you pronounce this? Krondalike?
I think that's what I went with. It's Krondalike. I mean, my goodness, how are they going to, just real quick, they have to survive the cyber wasps of the robot zoo planet, and it's just like you said, it's one panel, and then they're falling into lava. I'm like, jeez, man, how in the world? All right, I'm ready, Mark.
All right, yeah, hit me with... All right, issue number 3 takes us to cover date August 2017, in-store date August 16th, 2017. Jesse, tell me about this issue.
Issue 3. With a little help from Rufus, Bill and Ted are able to defeat the large green monster by the best way they know how, by playing rudimentary instruments, as only the wild stallions can. Their trials complete, the leader of the Grand Cosmic Council, Ob, grants them the freedom to play where they please, unencumbered. Glurm arrives and expresses his displeasure, while Deacon and the dads reunite with Bill and Ted's mothers, and it's a rocky reunion at best. Bill and Ted revisit the expectation of their 10-year galactic tour. Bill feels that they should do it and bring their families along with them, while Ted disagrees and doesn't feel the road is any place for their family. The boys have one of their first real disagreements. Upset with his mom and how she put her family aside to spread the word of Ted's band, Deacon agrees to become one of Glurm's crew, while Glurm is planning something sinister for Bill and Ted's family back on Earth. There is issue 3.
I love the fact that Bill and Ted finally had a fight. And that Ted, whose opinion on the matter, I mean, it's so weird because it's like you have Bill, whose thing is, our destiny is to play the universe and bring peace everywhere we go. That's bigger than everything. And Ted's like, yeah, but family's important too. Mm-hmm. And and dragging your family across the cosmos on a rock show tour is not the best way to bring up a family. And it's like, wow, they don't write Bill and Ted as complete dumbos. Like, that's a pretty insightful way of looking at things from Ted. And it's one of my favorite parts of this book is that they didn't just, I described them on the previous podcast as just kind of puppies dressed as humans. And they're not like that in this. Like, they're not just sort of tail wagging, tongues out, wide-eyed puppies. They're actual people. And it was amazing that this comic book, I think, wrote them better than the movies did.
That's actually one of the things I've always liked about Bill and Ted's characters is that even though they're complete dumbasses, they are loyal to those they love. Even in all the movies, the princesses, their families, they have always come first. And that was one of the things I loved about in Face the Music when they find out that in the future their wives are going to leave them. They just say flat out, okay, we got to fix this first. They've always been incredibly devoted to them. Now, I got to ask you, you both are married, you both have kids. If you were in Bill and Ted's shoes, what would you do? Would you have taken your family on an intergalactic tour, or would you have said, screw it, or we're going to stay at home?
I'll take this first, Jesse.
Yeah.
I think I would have tried to do what they inevitably did at the end of this, which is try to find a solution that solves both problems, because I agree with Ted. You know, dragging your family out on the road, especially when you have a young child like that, is not great. That's not a great place to raise a child. Maybe if they're older, that's one thing. And I know some bands do that. They bring their families out on the road with them. But, a lot don't. A lot just go on the road. But they don't go for 10 years either.
Yeah, no kidding. 10 years, dang.
I want to say, like, the guys in Metallica, there were some divorces for the amount of, due to the amount of time they spent on the road and not at home. It's one of the things that my wife and I have talked about. Not that I've had a lot of opportunities to leave home, but I haven't pursued them either, because she grew up with a dad who traveled, and through his travels, he made a lot of money. He took great care of his family, but he wasn't there for a lot of it. Her mom felt like a single parent.
Yeah, and that's rough.
Yeah, it is rough, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to the family you leave behind. So I'm with Ted on this one.
Yeah, I completely saw where Ted was coming from. We mentioned rock groups. We can make a wrestling reference as well. I mean, those guys are on the road so much that so many relationships suffered. And you don't bring your kids along with
Jimmy
you on the
Snuka
road.
had
normally.
wives in different parts of the country.
Yeah, it was. It's just not usually going to work out. Not only do you have to worry about that, the second part of the question, which you didn't ask, is, oh yeah, by the way, the destiny of the galaxy being in harmony lies on whatever decision you make, and that would make. I mean, you have to feel like 1 inch tall from the pressure that is on your shoulders with a question like that. But yeah, as far as family goes, I would not want to take my kids out. I wouldn't want to take my wife out. I would want to be with them. That's how I would go
Jesse
about
can
it.
barely take his family to the movies.
That's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. And mostly just because I can't stand to be within close spaces for about more than an hour with them. So how's that?
Spoken like a true
family man.
Spoken like a true father. Get away from me, kid! You bother me. All right. So, anything else about issue? No, I love the family dynamics.
Yes, and that's all over this issue too.
Yeah, so much of this issue is just the infighting, and I think I can't remember which character was like, "Should we be watching this?" Which I cracked up at.
It's right there in the middle, right after they survive the Radulich. As soon as they're able to survive that, it's like immediately this soap opera happens in front of the audience between these families, and that's pretty dang funny. Tamerlan has found another significant other, I guess you would say, and what appears to be a houseplant of some sort. And that kind of makes Ted's mom or Ted's dad pretty upset. And Mark mentioned the Radulich giving this dissertation as to why they are culturally relevant just after he tried to eat them, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, I do love the Toaster's reaction. It's like when they're fighting, and Ted points out, the Grand Cosmic Council is still there. And the Toaster's like, so should we be watching this? Or...
It's good stuff. Anything else, Alexis?
Nope, I think we got it covered. So it was
right.
great to hear your guys' opinion on, staying or going. I really did want to pick your brains about that. I mean, I travel for a living, but I don't have kids.
Yeah, it's a situation and a question.
It's totally different when you don't have kids.
Yeah, and for the record, the most I am on the road is 4 weeks at a time, and that usually happens once a year, either in the summer or the fall. Other than that, I'm gone maybe 1 or 2 weekends a month. So, much different scenario.
All right.
Issue number 4, cover date September 7th, 2017, in-store date September 20th, 2017. Jesse, issue number 4.
My goodness. We open up this issue with Bill and Ted looking at us and telling us that the Wild Stallions are breaking up. Everyone's concerned at how this will impact their destiny to bring harmony to the universe, and as they look to Rufus, he has no answers. The families become even more distressed as the whereabouts of Deacon remain unknown, and they are trying to piece together where he may have went. Rushing the quarters of the leader, Ob, they find that Deacon is finding happiness as one of Glurm's crew out of the shadow of the Wild Stallions. However, after finding out their ship is headed towards Earth, Deacon confronts Glurm to find out that his motives are only to have only to have Glurm set upon him some black tentacles. So, yeah, let me paint the picture because that sentence didn't do it. Deacon goes in there, confronts him, and Glurm's like, why you bothering me here? Oh, yeah, by the way, and a bunch of black tentacles come out, and that's kind of like the last you see of Deacon right there. After some debate and soul-searching, Bill and Ted and the rest of the gang decide to go find Glurm's ship and get Deacon. Back on Earth, Deacon has arrived, but he is not himself. Possessed with whatever alien Glurm put on him, he attacks Bill and Ted's family while Missy escapes with the 2 children. We end the issue with a possessed Deacon smiling with an army behind him, and apparently the possessed wives and Chuck by his side. So, just real quick, I know we're just about to talk about Glurm here, but I had no idea what was happening. I thought Glurm was the big dude the whole first 4 issues. I'm like, okay, that's the big dude. So anyway, black tentacles, Mark Radulich.
Yeah, we start to see things take a turn here. You know, so far it's been a lot of interfamily turmoil, and even though Glurm had rightly questioned, you know, the nature of the music and the universe becoming unified and all of that, you know, it looked like he was going to take a back seat, and then like, nope, he not only turns on Deacon, Deacon's betrayed yet again, but he has nefarious plans for Bill and Ted, and so this is where things really get going.
Yeah, go ahead, Alexis.
I think one of the best parts about this chapter is not only seeing Deacon just kind of finally come to a sense and say, look, I can't stand my brother. I can't stand, how everyone worships him. I can't stand his band, but he is family. Those are the people back there are the ones that he cares about. I'm not going to let you hurt them. Mm-hmm. And it's really great to see him show backbone and just say, like, as much as he can't stand his brother, he doesn't want to see the princesses or any of them hurt. He does care about them. But I think the best part about this issue is just the dynamics of everyone reacting to Bill and Ted breaking up. These are characters that have let their identities of the Wild Stallions essentially consume them. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, if you're not around, then what the hell are we supposed to do? To the point that this, frankly, is kind of shocking that when they find out that Deacon is on Glurm's ship, both Bill and Ted's mothers kind of say, well, he's small potatoes, we have things to deal with. And both Bill and Ted are like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of what brings them back together is the fact that Deacon's missing. And they, I think it's Bill that comes up and says, what is this about your brother being missing? And your mom saying, we're not going to go look for him. Bull crap. We're going to go find him. And that was really cool. There's a part during all the family scuffling back and forth. Ted's dad, which, by the way, do you guys know his name? Because I didn't write it down.
I think it's John.
Is it John? Okay. And then Bill's dad, I can't remember what his name.
We're going to go with Captain Logan.
Captain, okay. Well,
Captain Logan. I know that Bill's dad is named Eugene. They mentioned it a couple of times because he spends I think 90% of this book just drunk off his ass.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to issue 5 and we talk and Glurm jumps into his body.
Yes.
That is a great bit.
Well, okay, so Captain Logan, he's always been a heel throughout most of what we watch. on the films and the first 3 issues of this. I mean, at one point, Captain Logan it almost looks like him and Glurm are going to team up together to go and stop the Wild Stallions. But obviously, things have changed with Captain Logan on the ship now. Anyway, there's a point where they're talking, and Ted finds out from Eugene, because Ted is questioning, like, how have I been getting these postcards from you guys? His mom. How have I been getting postcards from you when you've been out in space this whole time? And he finds out that it was his dad that was writing the postcards and having his police buddies mail them, so Ted would think that his mom was still around and cared about him. And I was like, okay, all right. So now I'm starting to, my heart's softening up to old Captain Logan here. I thought that was one of the most poignant parts out of here. And the funniest part out of this issue is Ted's dad, Captain Logan, saying, okay, guys, we need to get a fleet together. How am I supposed to go about doing that? I need to send out a message. And they, I think it's Ob that says, well, you need to talk to the communication director about that. And he turns around and it's Station. Station just goes, Station. And of course he puts his hands in his, up to his face. He's like, dear God. So, I mean, I think it's hilarious that number one, Station is a communication director, since it only says one thing. Just that one thing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, family strife, Ted having a good time, Ted actually being, Ted finding out about his dad, actually caring about him, and as much as a hard time as he gives him. So anyway, Station. All right,
Station. All right. So we're ready to move on to issue number 5?
Anything else, Alexis?
Just out of curiosity, I know that in the second movie, Missy's leading a seance, but is that the only thing we're ever getting, that she's apparently a semi-powerful psychic? Because the first time they brought that up, I'm like, wait, who are they talking about?
Yeah. I didn't know that she had that heightened psychic powers, but hey, all right, whatever. I mean, this book, you watch Bill and Ted land on rocks on top of lava, and they're fine. So I guess I'm just going to go ahead and chalk it up to that's a comic.
All right, issue number 5, cover date October 2017, in-store date October 18th, 2017. Still the same group of people working on this, including Derek Charm on the covers. Jesse, hit me with that last final.
Oh, yes.
Synopsis.
Final issue. The guys face off with the alien-possessed Deacon, where we get our origin on Glurm. So this is where we learn that this black tentacle stuff is actually Glurm, and the story of his people, the Uvula. The alien race's society was bled dry by an outsider who promised to share the message of tranquility. The Uvula evolved to live inside other beings, feeding off their negative emotions and affecting the lives of those around them. With the galaxy at peace, their existence is once again threatened. And now they have convinced Bill and Ted to give up their own lives by being beamed away in a particle transmission scrambler in order to save their families and San Dimas, which, by the way, is apparently getting beamed up to all these ships. As the alien leaps out of Deacon, Deacon gets hit so hard, he ends up in the phone booth that just materialized from Death's trip he took in issue 1, which I thought was freaking hilarious. Because he leaves and then he's walking out. This thing don't work. It's like, wait a second, did I miss something?
That was great. Open, storms out. Deacon flies it, slam, thing disappears. It's like, that all had to have happened in like less than 5 minutes.
So Deacon exits the booth he is in, and it turns out it's the past. And he ends up running into Fate, the date from Death's date from the issue 1. Fate shows him that he is actually the man that sends the moms on their space adventure, training them for, I think he said, 2 years, and getting them their first starship. Deacon departs, giving them the knowledge on how to save Bill and Ted in the future. Now that the Wild Stallions are safe, Glurm becomes enraged, preparing to fire upon San Dimas. It is just then a fleet of ships arrive with Ted's father, Captain Logan, at the command, saving the day. While cleaning up from the invasion, Bill and Ted still have to make a decision about going on the 10-year galactic tour. It is here where their mothers come up with an idea to use the same weapon that was going to kill them, the particle transmission scrambler, in order to beam a live concert throughout the galaxy. And everyone lived happily ever after.
Oh, I love the conclusion of this. First of all, let me quick address what I said before. So when Glurm jumps out of Deacon's body and tries to jump into Eugene, and he becomes drunk because Eugene's so pickled.
Oh, yeah.
I was dying laughing.
I've never seen this many toxins in a being before.
I laughed at a lot of this. I laughed more of this than I did Face the Music, but that probably gave me the biggest laugh of all.
Yeah,
that was cute.
Good.
I love the solution to the 10-year tour is that they're gonna stay on Earth, but they're gonna use this transmission to beam their concerts to the rest of the universe.
Yep.
And that's how they solve that problem, so that they can stay home and still fulfill their destiny. I was like, oh, that's some might say that's kind of cheap. It's like, oh, a little too perfect. But I'm not expecting.
Yeah, this isn't War and Peace.
No, yeah, I was like,
it's Bill and Ted. We want happy endings with
That's
Bill.
right.
Totally.
That's right.
So let me just give my final opinion on this book, and we'll kick it over to you guys. I really love this. I thought the addition of the moms was great. I thought, Bill and Ted on this adventure out in space was a great way to use them. The reason why I said I like this more than Face the Music is this was more about the relationships between these characters and not just about the same goofy gimmick done over and over again. Instead of running into versions of themselves constantly, which we get in the second and the third movie ad nauseum, they actually have to sit and deal with their moms. Mm-hmm. And their father and their brother talk about how this affects them. And so for the first time, Bill and Ted and the weight they carry and how they share it with the rest of the world actually means something. It isn't just a setup for sight gags.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked best about this book, is that instead of it being just a series of gags, it was actually about something, and it dealt with the relationships among these various characters. And I thought it was all handled very well. I mean, for a comic book, for one of them funny books, Jesse, I actually thought this was pretty heady stuff and well worth a read.
I will second that notion. I will second that for sure. A couple of things I want to point out for issue 5 that I really enjoyed, and one criticism. So I'll start with my criticism first. And it's the origin of the uvula. I had to read that like 3 times, and as to why he was so upset that Bill and Ted were. I mean, I finally figured it out, but I couldn't understand why is he so upset at them. I mean, his society was drained dry by some huckster or whatever that tricked him.
They felt guilt. They fell to a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, exactly. And it was exactly a pyramid when he was showing it on the diagram there.
Yeah,
and I was like, why are they so upset about them? And then I realized that when it was their evolution where they were starting to live off of negative emotions, that Bill and Ted giving the galaxy harmony and peace is just going to make their existence that much more horrible. So that right there, it took me a couple reads, but I finally got it. And writing the synopsis for issue 5 was tough because so much was going on. I love that all 4 issues, I'm sitting there going, where's Death? What happened with Death? He got in the booth. Where's he at? And then we get the payoff in issue 5, which is spectacular. And then Rufus going up to Deacon. After Deacon's aged, his hair's changed and all that, and Deacon comes back in the booth after whatever, his 2-year. Obviously, he probably had to change his appearance so his mom wouldn't recognize him. But anyway, when Rufus comes up to him and says, nice paradoxing, when he gave him the idea to reverse or do whatever they could do to stop the particle transmitter beam from killing Bill and Ted, where he gave his moms the idea for that. So that was great. That's a staple. I think that's a staple. I can't remember if that happened in 2, but I know that happens in 1 an awful lot, and it definitely happened in 3 if I remember correctly. So anyway, I enjoyed the book. My final thoughts are I wanted to get on here and talk about it because I was enjoying it so much. So yeah, I would, if anybody has the opportunity to pick this up. I mean, we covered a good bit of it, but there's plenty more to read and enjoy. And so, Alexis, I turn it over to you.
I'm totally with you on that. I am a sucker for a well-written grandfather paradox, and I thought the idea of Deacon being the one that sent the moms off on their journey was really brilliant. I even kind of like the whole idea of the what they call it, like the atypical uvula.
Yeah.
The idea that they basically fell for a pyramid scheme, and they're saying that, I mean, it's not just the negative emotions, it's the fact that the way they're seeing it is that Bill and Ted are now saying our music can, save the universe. They're like, yeah, this sounds a little familiar.
Mm-hmm.
We've already been through something like this, and it didn't work well for us. So you do kind of get a little bit why he's like, no, not falling for this crap again. Now, this was really fun. I'm totally with you, Mark. The scene where he tries to possess Eugene, and Eugene's like, I think I need to make some serious life changes. That was so great. And yeah, it is a very sappy, everyone ends up happy ending, but it's Bill and Ted. These are not characters we want to see suffer in the end. We want a happy, schmappy ending with these guys. And I'm so glad we got it, and I loved it. I definitely recommend picking up this book, but again, remember, this does not connect in any way to Face the Music. So you're going to have to either look at this as a separate canon or look at the third movie as a separate canon.
Or
that's entirely up to you.
It's it could also be an alternate universe.
Yeah, like I said, it's up to you on how you want to approach it. But I stand by what I said in the movie review, that I think it's a really enjoyable film, so...
All right.
I think that wraps up our discussion of Bill and Ted Face the Music, a very enjoyable book. I might look into some of the other Bill and Ted books that are out there by Boom Studio.
You had to get one more in there, didn't you?
I can't wait. We need to schedule more of these books right now.
Mark needs more boom!
Just so I can yell Boom!
So
all right.
you're yelling boom like that. All I could think is that one Tweety episode. It's like, poor Putty Ted, they fall down, go boom!
This has been a long week with a lot of podcasts crammed into a short period of time.
What number are you on right now?
Any
idea?
This is number 5 for me for the week. Tomorrow's number 6.
And it's Wednesday.
Hardest working man in podcasts.
I will not doubt that.
Myself, Alexis, Hejna, and Robert Winfrey reviewed the movies Bill and Ted Face the Music and The New Mutants. Last night we did a source material for the Demon Bear saga. I was joined by Al Sedano of the Warlock and Thanos podcast, and Chris Sheehan of Chris's on Infinite Earths and the Cosmic Treadmill. We also, the Podsman, did a review of WWE Payback. Tomorrow, from what I understand, we're supposed to be doing a Long Road to Ruin for the first 2 Bill and Ted movies, so that'll be fun. We're dusting off Long Road to Ruin again. Last week we did the one and only Ivan, SummerSlam, and Unleash the Archers Abyss. And next week we'll have 2 movie reviews. I just won't be stacking them in one day. We'll have one for Mulan. We'll have one for Tenet. We'll review AEW All Out. I'm all the way out, Jesse.
I'm glad that joke came back.
No way that's going to be taken out of context.
Especially over the next 100 times he says it.
I'm all the way out, baby. And then finally we'll do a TV party for Gretzko Season 3, which I love. It's probably my favorite season of the show so far. So if you haven't had a chance to watch a Gretzko on Netflix, give it a shot. It wouldn't have been my first choice to watch, but it came highly recommended by the Radulich and Broadcasting gang, and now I'm a big fan of the show. So you can check that out next week. Jesse, what's your story, Morning Glory?
Well, the only thing I recorded recently, aside from the Metal Hammer of Doom, is our upcoming episode on From Claremont to Claremont. I've got my section on Excalibur in there. Mark, I mean, we talked about our soundtrack to our lives, and I can't wait to hear yours when Chris Sheehan gets the episode done. So if you want to hear...
There's some Whitesnake in there.
Is there some Whitesnake? Okay. I got country on my list, Mark. Country
Really?
songs, buddy. Yeah. It's going to be a fun one.
Is that a nod to your pappy?
I even delved out what the parameters were. That's right. Hashtag parameters.
Oh, boy.
2 hours. 2 hours was my section on the Excalibur, and we did I think a prestige format one as well. So anyway, just keep an eye out for that. When Sheehan gets that done, it's going to be popping up there over on the Cosmic Treadmill. So watch. That's about the only thing I've done here. Just keep an eye out for the Metal Hammer of Doom, and maybe one of these days I'll make it back on the Source Material podcast.
Hopefully. We miss you, Jesse. Yay!
Hey!
You're the only one that lets Robert and me talk and just go totally off topic. Mark too often sits down and says, all right, knock it off.
Podcast Dad Radulich.
That's me. Podcast Dad nothing. I got to go to bed. I got to get up in the morning.
Podcast Pappy Radulich.
That actually rolls off the tongue better. I like it.
So put it on a T-shirt, Mindy. Podcast Pappy.
There we go.
The next time, if you enjoyed Alexis Hejna on tonight's Source Material, and really, why wouldn't you? She's a doll. She's an inspiration. She'll be back with us September 14th for Batman: Dark Victory. Yes, I brought Alexis Hejna on for a book that doesn't involve girls, chicks, women's vaginas. She's just doing something she likes. Batman: Dark Victory. After we talked about Catwoman When in Rome, we were like, hey, wait a minute, we should probably read the book that this is like an offshoot from. So we're going to do that September 14th. Aren't you excited? Don't you look like yourself?
Bill and Ted Save the Universe really wasn't a female-led book either. I didn't know about their moms until I picked it up. I reviewed this because, again, big Bill and Ted fan.
Batman: Dark Victory. Plug your company, lady.
Fair enough. Honeysuckle.
There's that dog. Yeah. Been waiting for that.
Eddie, no. Come here. All right. I'm going to try to get through this while controlling the corgi barks. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We are getting ready for our big Labor Day sale weekend starting this Friday. That is the 4th. Everything in both our Etsy and Handmade Amazon shops will be bark. Yes, they will be 20% off. That's everything. Necklaces, earrings, bracelets, chokers, hair barrettes. They're all going to be 20% off all weekend long. You can follow us, of course, as always, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and whatever social media my dog is suggesting. Again, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, that's it. We are out of time here on the Source Material Live. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Jesse. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Party on!